Of course, COVID-19, or as I like to say, the China virus, is still affecting the global community. Here in America, there are churches, restaurants, and other small businesses that closed their doors over a year ago, and for some, it was permanent, all because of a virus. Interestingly enough, flu-related deaths were at an all-time low in 2020. Interesting. According to the CDC, the hospitalization rate for the 2020-21 flu season in America was just 0.7 per 100,000 people, the lowest since the agency started tracking flu data in 2005. In fact, over the course of the last flu season, there was just one pediatric flu death compared to 196 in the 2019-20 flu season. Think about that one for a while. While you're thinking, listen to this one. Back in January 2017, did you hear what I said? Now think about this. January 2017, President Trump is about to take office. Anthony Fauci was addressing a forum on pandemic preparedness at Georgetown University. He opened with this statement. I thought I would bring that perspective of my experience in 5 administrations to the topic today, which is the issue of pandemic preparedness. And if there's one message that I want to leave with you today, based on my experience, is that there's no question there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases. Both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, but also there will be a surprise outbreak. And I hope by the end of my relatively short presentation, you will understand why the history of the last 32 years that I've been the director of the NAIAD will tell the next administration that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they will be faced with the challenges that their predecessors were faced with. Understand this, Dr. Fauci said this 9 days before President Trump took office and right before the Russia story broke. And this is 3 years before the pandemic actually surfaced. These are the facts, people. Look it up for yourself like I did. Snopes.com even said it was true. So it's time for you and I, the Christian conservative flashpoint army, to arm ourselves with the truth. Now, I don't want to go any further. I want to go back to Dr. Fauci because I can feel some of you saying, you're just quoting something. I want to play just a piece of the video where you will see Dr. Fauci in 2017 actually saying those words. Watch.
Thank you for joining with us here today. Our Creator.
All right, that wasn't Dr. Fauci. That was Governor Abbott. This is live TV, people. You guys just let me know when you have it. We'll get going. Let me go ahead and bring in Lance Wallnau and Pastor Hank Kuhneman. We hear Mario is coming. He was somewhere shopping for a new camera. I can't make this stuff up. Anyway, Lance, you remember the gas. Are you old enough to remember the gas crisis?
I certainly do, and I think we should apologize to Governor Abbott because he's still waiting to speak to us.
Yes. We'll get to him.
Double-digit inflation, my friend. That was the characteristic of the Carter era. And the long gas lines. And then we had the 444 days of being hostage, which who knows, maybe we're 444 days hostage to the Biden administration till all of the recounts are done. But I remember those days fondly.
Well, and the fondly, if you remember, it just wasn't the gas prices and they were skyrocketing. And then we also had this was the evolution of the small car. Up to this point, the Volkswagen Beetle was the only small car that was really of any big prominence in the American. And so then we started importing Toyotas and Nissan and all of these, or Datsun back then, to America, and all in an effort to save gas prices, and all your big Chevys and your big Fords and the big Oldsmobiles, they were put out to pasture and all that. Now, Pastor Hank, I know you're probably not old enough to remember all that, But in spite of that, even as young as you are, you know what it means to be living in this. Is Omaha okay with gas?
Yeah, well, let me just say this. You know, I'm not as old as the two other gentlemen on this panel tonight. You know, they're very old. They were back in the days before fire was even invented. But my dad owned a service station, and so he was in the gasoline business. And I remember the long lines. But you know, a word that they used to say back in those days is, "We can't afford this." And that was what people said because of the incredible amounts of inflation. And, you know, the gas prices are going way up here in Omaha, Nebraska. I mean, it's like, I don't understand this administration. You know, this fraudulent administration. It's like, you know, what are you doing? You're not honoring the Constitution. It's almost like you're trying to, you know, from a book, How to Ruin a Nation in 100 Days. And it's very obvious what they're doing. And I think it's going to continue to create an outrage, especially from the 100 million of us who did not vote for this administration and realize that the election was stolen from us. We're not going to take it lying down. And so it's just going to continue to backfire on them.
Yeah, agree. All right, I'm going to go back to Dr. Fauci just because Lance needs to see him say this, just to prove that we really had the video. This is Dr. Fauci in January of 2017. Go ahead.
Given, as you heard from the introduction, that I have been around for a while and have had the opportunity and the privilege and the pleasure of serving in 5 administrations, I thought I would bring that perspective to the topic today, is the issue of pandemic preparedness. And if there's one message that I want to leave with you today, based on my experience, and you'll see that in a moment, is that there is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak. And I hope by the end of my relatively short presentation, you will understand why history, the history of the last 32 years that I've been the director of NIAID, will tell the next administration that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they will be faced with the challenges that their predecessors were faced with.
Now, on this, he's talking about, the left will tell you, well, he was just saying this is out there and this is coming. But it's a little ironic, don't you think, gentlemen, that we've got him saying that the next administration will be dealing with this surprise virus. He said it. You saw him. You're right there. Go ahead, Lance.
Yeah, and I think it would be interesting to hear a good explanation as to what Dr. Fauci's involvement was with Wuhan, what the American involvement was, because we did have our own investment in the bio research that was going on there. And it's kind of like an information fog comes down when you try to trace, in those 35 years of global leadership, what was Dr. Fauci's understanding about the nature of what was going on in these labs? And why is it that there was no preparedness? $8 billion in the CDC was supposed to be going into research, and weren't they researching anything like this? Because at the time when Trump came into office, they were working a large part of their budget on social justice issues in the department. Imagine that. So I think that there's definitely a spiritual conspiracy, and that's the part that makes it great to be a Christian or prophetic, because I could see even where somebody might say, oh, Lance, are you saying these guys are doing this on purpose? No, but I can tell you the devil's doing it on purpose. Amen. And I can see how the dots are all connecting to make it happen.
Yeah. All right, let's pull in now the video we teased you with.